Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host Lockefox and this is episode number 20. We're going to talk about general Eve market stuff just ahead of Fanfest and news and industry stuff, and let's go ahead and get this show on the road. So as we start every week, we're going to start with special show notes just to indulge me real quick. First, remember that we have the Tweetfleet Slack server. The link will be in the description below the video. This is the best place to get in touch with me off air. We have the Prosper channel on there, and since I'm not in game enough, this is the best way to get in touch with me. There's a bunch of people. It's a really active channel. I want to thank everyone who's in that channel because we're one of the largest on the Slack thing there. We're at 126 people in there, and I got to thank all of you. Also, as sort of a update, we have over 600 people watching the YouTube, and we just launched a new Twitch channel at twitch.tv/EveProsper. If you want to follow the show, all you have to remember is Eve Prosper, all one word. That'll get you to the blog, to the website, to the Twitch, to the YouTube, to the Twitter. Also, I want to go ahead and thank Jason Raudier and Agatir Solenth. I did shout out to them last week, and I'm shouting out again to them this week about logo designs. I know I need to get in touch with Agatir. He finally got me his character info, and I'll be sending him his Plex real soon. As a reminder, if you are video inclined, I'm looking for some help on building a commercial for the show in a 15 to 30 second window. Had something like the Quantum Rise trailer in mind. So if you are at all inclined, have Plex will pay. So next piece of show news is that the show time has changed in Eve, but if you're in the US, it hasn't changed times. Because of daylight savings, the show is now at 0200 instead of 0300. I know that a lot of you Europe guys will be back in line with us in a couple of weeks, so sorry about the time change. I gotta do it at 8 my time. So moving on, let's go. I have been working on some new graphs and charts. First one, we've been getting through the Eve Central data that we've been scraping and starting to look at the margins between items as a comparison to try and suss out some information, maybe build something new as far as picking products to buy or sell. This is one of the charts we put together. This is local spreads in Amar, Dodixie, and Jita. So if you were buying from buy orders and selling to sell orders, this is a description of how much you might make. And then if you were watching Eve Reddit this last weekend, I did post up some histograms from that data. So we're working on trying to build a decent view. I've been playing with ggplot2 in R and loving it. So expect to see more stuff. Follow the Twitter if you want to see the graph porn. That's Eve Prosper on Twitter. And we should be publishing something in the next couple of weeks, at least a blog of some sort, hopefully. So just keep tuned there. And then the last piece before we get into the news is that we also have a email that you can reach the show at prospermarketshow@gmail.com. I know it's the only thing that isn't the same, but I couldn't get Eve Prosper at Gmail for some reason. Hein Will Snatch, I want to say his name is, wrote into the show asking about the tools, and as you guys know, I'm more than happy to share the tools and the stuff, so I'll put links to the code and how to get started in the YouTube video, and if you guys are interested more in that, we can talk after the show. Moving on, let's get into the news. CSM voting has closed. It closed Tuesday, I believe. And CCP Lilu, the person who keeps track of the CSM, their wrangler, released some information about the voting. She put up this post of how many characters voted per day in the CSM election. I know that that's artifacting a little badly, but you got to work with what you get. it's kind of interesting to see the bow that we see, you know, the majority voted on the first and second day. We saw a slight uptick as the people tried to get their votes in at the very end. Unfortunately, the vote counts weren't as high as some of us were expecting. The final count came into 36,894 votes cast, and that's up from last year, which was at 31,000, but down from CSM 7 and 8, which were CSM 8 was at 49,000 and CSM 7 was at almost 60,000. So voter participation is still pretty low, and it's not filling me with a whole bunch of hope, but it was a great run. There were a lot of great campaigns, and we should be hearing results at Fanfest probably during the EVE keynote. I expect Siegel to get on the thing and show us our new CSM. So if you're interested at all in CSM, you should go check out the blog at eve-prosper.blogspot.com, where I have put up both the endorsements of the candidates I thought were most important, and a prediction about who will actually be on CSM 10. So go check that out. Moving on, Fanfest is next week, if you guys didn't know. I don't know how you couldn't know, because frankly everybody's talking about it. I will not be going because I am the poors. Actually, I need to buy a car. That's why I can't go. Otherwise, I'd totally be there, and I'd be like, see you guys. And CCP has released a series of dev blogs. The streaming schedule is on Twitch. You don't have to buy the service to get the HD stream, but there should be something you can buy to get the Fanfest ships, which are all pretty in blue. The swag shop has been announced. There's a lot of great t-shirts. Oh my god, I want so many of those t-shirts. And then there were a couple of articles on the Worlds Collide tournament, which, if you're not aware, is a fight between Tranquility and Serenity, the World server and the Chinese server, with bragging rights and a unique luxury ship that will only ever exist on one server. So I'll be rooting for the Camel Empire for sure. They were one of my favorites in the latest Alliance tournament, and if you're at all interested in player tournaments, that's a thing to go look at. And then last, before we get on to Plex, there was just today a new Flight Academy video released. So if you are among newbie friends, or if you are a newbie yourself, go check that out. They're talking about how to get in touch with new players to play the world's worst single-player game. Like, seriously, EVE is no fun without friends, so go find a corp, go interact with people, get in chats, and go blow stuff up together, because this game's no fun alone. With the news out of the way, let's talk about Plex. Now, I have been saying for the last few weeks that we expected a uptick right before FanFest, and as we can see at the end of this graph, yes, technically I'm correct, but it's still a little too early to tell. So I expect the prices to go up near 810, 815, maybe 820 during FanFest. We'll see what happens during the keynote. That's really gonna flavor which way the market ends up going. I have a bunch of faith in CCP Siegel, so I would expect us to be on track for 820 million Plex by a week after FanFest. So that's my prediction. We'll see if I'm right. It could really go either way, and we could be stuck at 800 like we have been for weeks. Moving on, let's talk about minerals. Starting with titanium, we saw a dip a couple of weeks ago, and we've normalized back around 6.0. I expect us to stay near 6.0. I don't expect things to move until after FanFest. Again, a lot of the mineral market is going to center around what happens during the show, during the keynotes, because depending on how Null sees their chances after the bigger vision is released, we might see capital production take a nosedive, and that'll bring down a lot of mineral prices with it. So just keep an eye on there. I think we're in for another slump in mineral prices, but it could technically go either way, so I wouldn't bet on it. Moving on to pyrite, we saw a huge spike, and I don't know what this is exactly driving at. It looks like some sort of supply constriction because we're not seeing a lot more demand. We're not seeing a lot of units moved, but we are seeing the price increase rather dramatically up to 12.8. I still think that the 12.4 level is the fair normal level, but we'll see where this goes. Again, I expect things to trend downwards after the keynote, but that's just me making a complete gut guess. So don't bet the farm on my advice. Moving on to Mexilon, it continues its downward slide, doing a steep drop off last weekend. Again, I sort of expect it to stay in this 59.5 level. We should keep the same slope we're seeing. No reason to think it could go either way. Again, this one is going to be the canary in the coal mine if you want to bet on capitals. If you believe capitals are going to become more demanded and nullsec will have a viable place for them in their combat metas, and they'll be committing things like dreadnoughts and carriers on a daily basis, you want to bet on Mexilon, because Mexilon will be the choke point. It should be the most constrained. Bet on Mexilon. If, on the other hand, you think that that capitals are going to be less used, and we're going to only see capitals come out very rarely, then Mexilon's going to drop like a stone. So this is my canary. This is the one I'm pinning my hopes to. It might just keep on its regular linear slide if nothing changes, but if you think that nullsec is getting a big boost, this is where to bet. Moving on to Isogen, we've seen a few huge spikes the last couple of weekends, but whoever was buying out the Isogen supply didn't do it this last weekend. We're trending slightly down towards 125. Again, I expect Isogen to stay relatively flat. Same story as the other minerals. It should be flat or trending slightly down. Noxium has been trending up the last few weeks, but has finally leveled off around 675-ish. Yeah, 675. And again, no reason to think this won't stay flat. Again, if you are a betting man, this is another one to look at for greater trends in the area. Zydrine is continuing to trend down, but I really believe that 400 is basically the floor here, so I don't expect it to go much lower. And then Megasite, I still think has a little bit of room to fall, but it's staying relatively stable at 725. Again, until people come back from Fanfest, Megasite probably won't be moving very much, so just keep that in mind. And then last, it's Morphite. Morphite, we saw a high volume of demand a couple weeks ago, and we've tapered back off to the low volume that we've been at for the last couple of months. Personally, I expect Morphite to go up because I expect the SOV changes to cause more fights, to cause more Tech 2 things to get destroyed. More Tech 2 destruction means more Tech 2 production, means more Tech 2 demand. That's my bet on this one. I don't know how high or how fast it will rise, but I expect it to rise. Moving on to fuel. If you were tuned in last week, you saw that I have reduced the fuel slides to 2 with the shiny new graphs, thanks to ggplot. So if you have any feedback on these plots, go ahead and contact me. If there's anything in the theme you'd like changed other than the font, because I can't change the frackin' font. Over the last week, we've seen things stay relatively stable. The interesting part is this helium isotopes for Amar recently took a jump back up off of the 600 line it's been at, signaling, at least to me, that people have were stopping ice mining because the prices were too low. But then as soon as it was at 650, it crashes back down again, probably because of oversupply. So still not sure why it's so low. I kind of expect Amar ice to be a little bit higher, but it might just be a factor of how easy it is to get your hands on it on HiSec. In fuel blocks, things are staying relatively stable over the last week. We saw a spike in fuel block prices in Amar to match the isotope prices, but it's coming back down, and they should continue to fall back down to the original level they were at, so I wouldn't buy in quite yet. Moving on to Outliers, my personal favorite part of the show. We're going to start with Moon Goo. Photonic metamaterials are taking a big dive. All of the metamaterials have been extremely unstable, and photonic metamaterials in particular after the Ishtar nerf, due to that being the highest demanded cruiser, one of the highest sinks of photonic metamaterials by volume. Seeing that get its wind taken out of its sails is going to drop it, and expecting an oversupply from nullsec just is a double punch that's going to keep driving the price down. Now, I personally expect the price to have bottomed out and start at least remaining flat around 11,250, but it could still slide all the way down to 1100. So just keep your eye on there. Moving on to cadmium, I believe this is an R32, but I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. It has been tracking rather high in the last few weeks. It took a dip, driving like it was going to head back down to its previous 11,000 level, but then quickly turned around back to 15,000. So again, this is a lot of the moon materials have been tracking higher, but the final products have been tracking lower. And this is sort of problematic in that you then have a confluence where moon producers are losing money. So again, my big bet for Fozziesov is that Tech 2 production is going to tick up, that things like interceptors, especially at least as it stands today, things like bombers, things like mostly those two, should absorb some more demand, and we should start seeing some more action in those arenas. But right now, most of the advanced materials are bottom basement. They are completely scraping bottom, and it is a great time to stockpile. If you are a Tech 2 producer, now is a great time to stockpile, because I do expect the prices to go up or stay flat, which is a great thing for stockpilers. Moving on to PI, wetware mainframes continue their climb. Now, with the Fozziesov thing, I believe that the high-end P4 market is going to take it on the chin, because we're going to see a lot less SOV equipment actually consumed without SBUs, but we'll see how it goes out. The counter argument is that POSs might get more use as a strategic asset. It might be that the TCUs and those items get consumed more, might take up some of the slack, but wetware mainframes trending up as high as they are is a little bit weird to me, and so make hay while the sun shines, guys. Moving on to mechanical parts, it has been on a rather meteoric rise for the last few weeks, but has just this last week taken a huge fall, a huge tumble. I want to say that this will get washed out into the fuel markets. Unfortunately, mechanical parts account for such a small amount of the price that it'll probably just wash out. If you're producing mechanical parts, now would be a great time to stop producing them and find something else to work on. Most of the other POS equipment has stayed relatively high, so they might tumble along with this in the next couple of weeks, but we'll see. Moving on to ships, the Caracal Navy issue has been on a pretty steep rise, so if you have Caldari faction warfare points or any sort of Caldari loyalty points, it might be a chance to cash out. The prices are going high, but the volumes aren't staying very high, so this might not be a great opportunity to go burn a lot, but if you can go buy one or two, this might be a good chance to get out while the getting's good. Moving on to the Stabber has been on a bit of a roller coaster the last couple of weeks. There's been a big buyout that reset the price, so I expect this current peak to evaporate by the weekend. So I would not buy Stabbers unless you're betting that this wave is happening one more time. The Typhoon Fleet issue is another ship that is in low volume but very high prices at the moment. Again, it doesn't look like there's a ton of demand looking at the volume here, but the prices are very high, so if you have the loyalty points to burn, one or two of these ships might be a decent place to do it. On freighters, this one piqued my interest. The Fenrir has been tracking up. Now, about a month ago, we saw a pretty big reset because somebody made a mistake selling to a factor too low sell order here. And that drove the price a little too low. Then we saw an overcorrection up, and we came back down to normal, and I expected it to stay level, especially with the general downward, the slow downward slope of minerals in the last few weeks. But the Fenrir has tracked up, so if you can build them, I don't know if the prices will still be as high in 8 to 10 days as it takes to cook these things. But if you can play the buy-sell margin, you might be able to make a quick few bucks if you've got the time and money to deal with it. Now, the next two items I have paired together are the Gila and the Ishtar. Now, I've paired those together because in some amount of practicality, the Gila is the other side of the coin from the Ishtar, with the announced Ishtar nerf to drone damage and bouncer range. That's going to become less popular, similar to when the Drake bubble got popped and everybody ran out from Drakes. I expect something similar from Ishtars. Now, Ishtars still, I think, are a perfectly competent PvE platform, and they will continue to be the popular Isktar, as the CFC likes to call it. But when it comes to fighting, we might see more Gilas. So this is where I'm putting a personal bet. Prices have been a little bit higher since the Ishtar announcement, but they aren't trending as high as I had hoped. I was thinking of a steeper general upward line, but maybe I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to PvP equipment. Moving on to the Ishtar, we saw that after the announcement, we saw a big sell-off, but it's now trending back up, which is a little bit weird because the volumes are so low, so I don't know who's playing the market or if people have really held back supply enough that things are getting constrained. I don't think this peak is going to stay around, but getting an Ishtar for less than 170 million is also something I'm not sure will happen. So if it goes sub 170, I think you can assume that's pretty much the floor. And if you need an Ishtar, go get an Ishtar. Moving on to the Tengu, it flagged pretty well this week. I had been saying for the last couple of weeks that T3s have been scraping against their bottom dollar at the moment, and then the Tengu continued to fall. So that's a bit of a surprise on my side, heading towards 160 million, excuse me. And again, the prediction is still that is a bottom basement floor for the thing, but the Tengus might continue to get sold off for losses. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. And then also staying on the Tengu, the defensive supplemental screening module, after the announcement that T3 passive tanks were getting a bit of a nerf, It's tracking down, but it seems like it's a little too steep. So this might be a good chance to jump in, make a quick buck when it overcorrects, and get out again. So again, proceed with caution. This could continue to fall, but I don't think it will fall much further than it is today. So on to modules. I don't have many modules this week, but the 425mm Railgun 2s flagged pretty hot. I probably should have brought these up last week. I don't know why they didn't trip the flags, but they definitely tripped this week. Volume, it looks like we had a price reset with a buyout here, and that recorrected itself, but the prices have continued to trend up. This might be a weakness in supply to watch out for. So if you can produce them, this might be a good chance to go get maybe 200 to 300 out on the market. Moving on to high-grade slave epsilons are tracking way down. So if you are trying to go and assemble a snake set, it looks like somebody has been selling off their stockpile. This would be a great chance to get that epsilon implant for that extra speed boost. It looks like we're at the bottom, the basement of this particular fall, but if you are looking to assemble your own high-grade slave set, it's an armor HP implant. So if you need slaves, not snakes, go get a high-grade slave epsilon. And I'm going to wrap up a little early this week because I didn't have as many flags as I would have liked. We're going to go into a prediction review, which is a bit of a misnomer this week. So last week, I brought up that, I have these out of order, that ship scanners had flagged, that the prices for ship scanners were through the roof, and was sort of giving this, is Burn Jita coming early prediction kind of coming out, more tongue-in-cheek than reality. And then I see that tornadoes are spiking for volume, and it looks like a buyout. So maybe we're going to see Burn Jita earlier than expected. Now, if you have paid attention in the past, Burn Jita usually happens around April 20th. The last year was particularly busy. They extended it for more than a week, I believe, and they did a lot of hunting outside of Jita to really lock down and catch people off guard. And especially with Uedama and what's it called? Hyperdunking. The ships have this could be a pretty decent signal that we might be seeing we might be seeing Burn Jita by April 1st, if you wanted me to be so bold. Now, I have nothing to back this up besides the data, besides my own tools, besides these flags and graphs. So I haven't gone out and tried to ask anyone from Minilove what's happening. But if you want to put on your tinfoil hat, we might see it earlier than expected. So keep an eye on that. With that, we're going to end the show. Again, I'm going to tease the violence report. Again, I'm going to say that it's another few weeks out. Sorry, guys. That's how life is. I need to stop copy-pasting these things together. So, let's go ahead and end the show. My name has been Lockefox. You've been watching the Eve Prosper Market Show. If you want to tune in live, it's on Fridays at 0200 on Twitch at Eve Prosper. If you want to interact with the show, I invite you to join us on the Tweetfleet Slack server on the Prosper channel. We have over 125 people in there, and I really love the fact that there's so many people there. subscribe to the new Twitch channel at twitch.tv/EveProsper. Of course, if you can't follow live, you can catch this show at youtube.com/EveProsper. The blog is at EveProsper. Everything is EveProsper now. I've gone ahead and unified everything. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitch, YouTube, the blog. There's also a bit of a Hello World page at EveProsper.com. Keep tuned. Be sure to watch the news for Fanfest. We will not be streaming next week, but we will be back the following week. I will not be dual streaming going forward, so keep that in mind. Thanks again for tuning in. It really means a lot.